If you ever looked at a chart and had no idea on where price was going, this video is for you. I'm going to show you exactly how I mark up key levels on the NQ futures chart to find high probability setups, step by step, nothing assumed, no indicators, no guessing, just structure, levels, and logic. Let's hop on the charts. Okay, let me show you how to mark up some charts. What I first like to do is clear the chart with any information that I had from previous days. I like a brand new chart, fresh with nothing on it. So the first thing I'm gonna do is clear that. I like to start on the 4-hour to identify the current trend. Usually I will use the 4-hour, the daily, and the weekly just to make sure that it all lines up to tell us which direction the money is actually going. So I will start on the weekly. I can tell that this chart is currently in a bullish trend. Then I'll drop down to daily, also still in a bullish trend. Some bearish counter trend within this, but mainly the overall trend is a bullish trend. So looking at the 4-hour, I can see that there are many zones here that can potentially be key areas of interest. Things that might determine a key area of interest are swing highs and swing lows. Those are areas that you can see strictly off of first glance that show you that price has reacted and had some sort of rejection or reaction to those areas. If price is coming back to a swing high or a swing low, that can be telling you that this is an area that might have some strong resistance or strong support there. I like to look for supply and demand zones because it gives me an indication of what price could potentially do when it gets to those zones. So just looking at this chart, we see there's a swing high, swing low, swing high, swing low. I'm just going to quickly mark out these areas. I like to mark up body to wick. You can often see that some zones are also touched or tested more than once. So this H4 or this 4-hour zone has been tested more than once. And if we went back further, we can probably see that it was tested more times than it shows recently. So we can clearly see this is an area that was touched. Right here was one touch. Came back, touched it again, broke through. Touched it again here. Came down, touched it again. Now, levels that don't get respected, I like to delete off of the chart, but for now, we'll leave these here. The higher time frames help us determine where the key levels are, and these key levels on the higher time frames are usually stronger zones. Dropping down to the 1-hour, I'm able to take a look at the zones that we marked up, but in more detail. I'll use the 1-hour to refine the 4-hour zones a little bit more so we can just make them a bit cleaner. So right here, you can see I'll just move the zones and refine them a bit, clean them up so that it's clearly on the wicks and it's going from wick to body or body to wick. Here, I'll do the same. And I also might see some zones that weren't necessarily showing up fully on the 4-hour time frame. So I can see that there's some consolidation here. So I'll just mark out this supply zone. And price could potentially come back to touch this zone. And currently, if we're just looking at price, we're sitting right below this supply zone, this 4-hour supply zone. So this is a good zone for us to take note of if we were planning on an entry from somewhere around here. So these key levels have been marked up. Now, if I was to take entries, I would do that either on a 1-minute or a 5-minute time frame because it'll give me more detail and I'll be able to see my entry. I'll be able to utilize my entry rules and criteria to get into a trade. So I would not take a trade in between any of these zones. I would make sure that I'm either hitting a supply zone, and I'm looking for shorts, or I'm hitting a demand zone and I'm looking for buys. Once I break structure after rejecting off of one of these zones, I will enter my trade. I will target the most recent swing high or the most recent swing low, and I'll make sure that I'm at least targeting a 2-to-1 R. And if things go my way, it'll be a profitable trade. Remember, you want to make sure that you are trading from a zone, not just in the middle of anywhere. You want to make sure you're trading from a zone, whether that is a 30-minute zone, whether that's a 1-hour zone or a 4-hour zone. Make sure that you're trading from a zone for an A+ setup. So if I'm just looking at zones that are important, so we marked up a lot. We don't have to mark up this many, but if I'm just looking at zones that are important and the most relevant, I would say this 4-hour zone right here was broken. So it broke when it was a demand zone. Then the 4-hour down here got touched. This demand zone down here got touched. This became supply. It broke through the supply zone. So what I like to do is delete these zones and try to find something more relevant or something that could potentially be respected. This right here is a broken demand zone. Here, this is the previous resistance that got broken. Price does like to come down and, test some of these zones from time to time. So this would be a previous resistance right here. Now, if I was looking for some sort of move, I would look for it to come down and test the zone to then go back up, or to break through, whichever the case is. But just marking out these key levels gives us some sort of area to key into whenever we're taking our trades. So now if I go down to the 30 minutes, it will give us some more detail. And price action loves to trade zone to zone. So the trend typically goes from one zone to another zone. And sometimes it touches it multiple times. Sometimes it doesn't touch it multiple times. Sometimes it just touches it once. Either way, we can tell that there are key levels whenever we see a rejection and it creates a sort of swing. When price comes down, touches something, and moves away from it quickly, that is telling us that this is a important or strong key area and key level, and that we should take note of it. So just marking up the charts, this is what I like to see, and this is how I mark up my zones. If this clicked for you, I do this every single week inside the Print Club. We do live markup sessions, pre-market analysis, real trades, with the community of traders actually putting in the work. The link is in the description. Come see what it looks like when this is applied every day.